Hey there, badass. How about a break from those endless emails, client calls, and screen time? Yep, shut down that laptop, set your notifications on silent, and come join us at the Ladies Kickin' Ass networking and community event, Sip, Sass, and Kickin' Ass. It's November 16th, which is a Thursday, from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Forum Lounge in Chandler, Arizona. Come mingle face to face with a bunch of amazing boss babes in service based businesses from around the valley. You can make genuine connections over cocktails. Yes, please sign me up. All the information for this fun event is in the show notes, along with a link for you to grab your free, yeah, I said free, ticket to come to this event. We cannot wait to see your beautiful faces at the event. Welcome to the Ladies Kickin' Ass podcast, where we raise our voices and honor the badass achievements of women in the service industry. Get ready for empowering conversations, inspiring stories, and a whole lot of ass-kicking energy. Join us as we redefine what it means to be bold, fearless, and unapologetically YOU, babe. This is your platform, your community, and your source of inspiration. So buckle up, get ready to rock and roll, and let's show this world just how much we can accomplish. Welcome to the Ladies Kickin' Ass podcast. Hey ladies, welcome back to another episode of Ladies Kickin' Ass. I'm thrilled to be able to introduce to you my guest today. Deborah Lynn Brown is our guest, and she is just seriously a ball of sunshine. When I met Deborah, she was so sweet, so kind, came and approached me in the middle of a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and we just had the best conversation. And I knew that she had such great wisdom. We were just talking before we jumped on here about life wisdom stuff, and I love to speak to women like Deborah because you are full of all kinds of knowledge. You've had all kinds of life, and there's just so much we can learn from you. So a little bit about Deborah. She has 3 adult children and 4 grandchildren. She has a bachelor's degree in human service administration, and she's worked in community outreach, workforce development, and local government. Now she's an independent business consultant with tax rebate specialist. So if you've heard all the buzzwords talking about ERC credit, this is your lady. You're going to want to stick around till the end because we're going to talk about what that is and how your business might qualify for some money out of all of this. Everybody likes a little bit of free money, right? She retired from her position as a city manager in March of 2022 and then decided that she needed to change her environment. So she sold like everything, including her house, and she packed up and she moved to Arizona. And that is a brave move in itself. So we will definitely get into that. I love when people have a passion and they're like, you know what? I need a change. I'm just going to go for it. So I'd love to hear how you were inspired to do that. So Deborah, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you. I think that it is such an honor. And when I heard about you or heard the information about you at the chamber, I was like, this is one woman I need to talk to. I've got to talk to her. I want to be like her when I grow up.
Oh, well, that is quite the compliment. That is quite the compliment. Well, I know that we have so many amazing things that we could talk about today, but what I would love to know, Deborah, I have some questions here for you that I'm just so interested in your journey, where you've gotten through things, what your passion is for working with people. So from an elected official and Braddock city manager to an independent business consultant with tax stuff, like what made you decide to diversify your experience so much from being in like workforce development to now helping businesses with tax strategy on this ERC deal that's going on?
They're all related. Workforce development, since COVID and even before COVID, employers were talking about how they couldn't find qualified employees or qualified individuals for the positions within their organization. So I worked with an organization called Mon Valley Initiative, and we did a lot of work within the Mon Valley in Pittsburgh. And those were communities that were along the river. And what we did is looked at how we can work with individuals, identify what their strengths were, identify what their interests were, and then help them match those interests and those strengths to the individual organizations, to employers. Sometimes it wasn't a match, but that's a good thing too, because sometimes you need to work in something that you think you want to be in, and you find out that's not it at all. And that's not a problem. And I used to say that to my young people that I worked with. So let me step back. I worked with young people in high school. I worked with single parents. I worked with individuals that had incarceration issues, and they were a hard population to find employment for. But again, what we try to do is identify what are your strengths? What do you like to do? Do you like to cook? Do you like to clean? Believe it or not, there are people who love to clean. I'm not one, but there are those who do. Do you like children? Do you like to babysit? So with the younger individuals, we identify. You think you want to work in daycare? Okay, let's talk to a daycare provider, see if you could shadow what they do. You want to work in social work? Because they had the idea, a lot of kids had the idea that when you worked in social work, you work for the organization that take children away from their families. And I would explain to them that's just one part of being a social worker. There's different avenues in which individuals can work in social work. And what I had a young lady shadow me for the day. And at the end of the day, I said, okay, tell me, what were some of your takeaways? What were some of the things you liked? What are the things you didn't like? And she said to me, you're a very nice lady, but you have a boring job. So I was like, so I said, if you're looking for excitement, then yeah, this part of social work is not what you want to do. So we identify that as well. We also used to work with employers, and we would have a recognition breakfast for those employers, because a lot of times it was very hard for us to get employment for single parents, for those with incarceration issues, because of some of the things that would come up, because there would be babysitting issues. There would be transportation issues. There would be some issues, that criminal charges that were against that person, that because of what they did, there were areas that they couldn't work. So a lot of times we had to recognize those employers who were willing to give individuals a chance. We did a lot of stuff with Port Authority, providing bus passes for our individuals who had transportation issues. We even went as far as, I don't know whether you know this or not, but individuals in the state of Pennsylvania, anyway, individuals that have had incarceration issues cannot get a driver's license for 5 years after they've come out, formerly incarcerated people. So they can't get a driver's license for 5 years. Yes. So we partnered with an organization that found individuals to donate bikes. So they repaired the bikes and gave them to individuals that didn't have transportation, who were willing to ride their bikes to work. So, and I forget I think it was called Bikes to Work or something like that, but it was a great organization that we partnered with. So those are just some of the things that we dealt with. And like I said, also transportation. So if you didn't have money to get to work because you didn't get paid yet, we were able to get bus passes to those individuals that didn't have a car. We also partnered up with an organization that helped individuals get transportation. Now that was a longer process because it helped them with their credit issues, but it also helped them to be able to identify a way to get into cars. So there's a lot of working parts when you're working in workforce development.
Oh, yes. And you have to have such heart and soul for helping people. You really have to have that service leadership quality about you to work in that, because It's just like when you said they couldn't get a driver's license for 5 years, like my thought process with that is they paid the time. Let them come out and join society again. If the crime doesn't say take away your driver's license for 5 years, like how do they expect them to come out and get a life going if they don't allow them to drive a vehicle? Like that is just so crazy to me the way that this world is set up. And it's such a blessing that there are such amazing people in the world like you, Deborah, that will help these people be able to find work and employment. Definitely working in the trades industry the way that I have for so long. You know what? Some of those guys are the best workers that I've ever had.
Yes. Yes.
Some of the guys that maybe shouldn't have been working were some of the best people that were working. you know, like you want to come in and work for the day? Fantastic. I'll put you to work. It's a lot better, they're actually working for something. They're working to avoid going back somewhere else. And I think sometimes that can be one of the biggest drives in the world, whether you are I hear this a lot too if you listen to a lot of entrepreneurial podcasts and they talk about Dean Graziosi is really big on this. He's like, I worked so hard not to get a certain level of money, but to make sure I never lived the way I lived growing up or that my kids never knew what that life looked like. And for me, that is the same thing. Like, I don't have a predetermined amount of money I need to have, but my kids have options. And my kids aren't always hearing, we don't have any money to do this. Because then you grow up with this mentality of there's something wrong with me, or I can't have this, or this lack that gets instilled inside of us. And I just hope so much that people will be able to see in that area where they're doing that. That's so harmful in helping them try to come out and get back into the world. So thank you for being an advocate that was able to help them. And organizations like that are so important. If you're a small business in a local town, look for organizations like this to support because a lot of them have a hard time getting support. A lot of times we're like, oh, we just donate to the same big fund every single year. But there's so many cool little organizations that help out the community. And if you want to be a real hero, find those places where you can help and donate.
Exactly. And there's that saying that money doesn't buy happiness, and money doesn't buy happiness, but it gives you more choices and it gives you more options. And that's where we want to be. We want to be able to make good choices for our families and for ourselves. And yeah, I totally agree. Now, again, when we talk about entrepreneurship, it's not for everyone, but that is the fastest way that you can provide choices for your family. That's in my opinion. In my opinion.
I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. This is not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. If you don't like the roller coaster ride, stay on the merry-go-round.
Oh yes, that's it. That's it. Stay on the merry-go-round. Yeah, that's it. But you know that you.
And there's nothing wrong with the merry-go-round. Lots of people love the merry-go-round. I love people that love the merry-go-round too, because it takes both kinds to make society work. It totally does. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what? And I find it so fascinating because to me, the merry-go-round of being an employee is like that I will do anything to avoid that. Like that is my hot spot. Like I don't want someone having control over my time because I was a single mom I am still a single mom. I'm remarried, but those kids are still mine and they're still 100% my responsibility because their dad is nowhere to be found. So I am still a single mom. That is I need to be there for my kids. And that's my number one reason why I do that. But then it's funny, my daughter always makes fun of me because we talk about being on the merry-go-round or being an entrepreneur or being on the roller coaster. She's like, but mom, you hate roller coasters. I'm like, yeah, in real life, because I ride one every day. My nervous system is shot.
I agree. I don't like roller coasters either. I just don't. They just take everything out of me when they go down that. When you're going down that hill, it is like everything in me is like coming out of my body.
Yeah, there's no reward at the end of that.
Yes, but the entrepreneurial roller coaster is so much different because as you make that climb, it doesn't, well, to me, it doesn't dip. It levels, it starts to level off. And that excitement that you're feeling as you're going up, it's rewarding when you get there and it starts to level off and you can breathe just a little bit easier until you set another goal for yourself. Once you set another goal for yourself, then you're climbing again.
For sure, for sure. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. So, talk to me about your decision to retire, sell your house, move to Arizona here by yourself after you had such a significant career in Pittsburgh where you were at. Like, what was the driving force for that? You just woke up and you're like, I need a new environment. I'm going to leave. Like, take us on that journey with you.
A little bit of both. I think a lot of things happen for a reason. And when they happen at that time, you want to stop and say, well, why is this happening to me? But then it's like, okay, why is this happening to me? And what am I supposed to learn from it? So being in local government in itself is kind of a roller coaster. Being a city manager is always roller coaster because you have several people that you have to please. Along with pleasing council, you also have the city, the township, the borough, the streets, the police officers, all those individuals that you have to answer to. And sometimes I could be in a grocery store and people would walk up to me and have a question. Oh, this house over here, they have all this trash that they've dumped, and shouldn't somebody come and clean this up? Couldn't clean this up? And yeah, well, I am grocery shopping. I'm not going to remember. So please let me, call the office. We'll take care of it. I was even at a funeral one time and someone approached me about borough business, and I'm like, we are at a funeral. you know,
You were the go-to gal, that's for sure.
it's like they sucked up my time. And then the other thing is that I had an elderly aunt. She didn't have any children, and I chose to be her caregiver. And that was a 24/7 job. So anybody that has ever been a caregiver knows that that is extremely, extremely difficult to do. Because I promised her I would not put her in a nursing home. I made that promise to her. But unfortunately, I had to break that promise when it came to a point where the one day we were together and she just kept falling and she kept falling. And the paramedic said to me, we can't keep coming and helping you lift her up. So I agreed to go ahead and put her in a nursing home. And that was right around the holiday, Christmas holiday. So it was like the 22nd of December. So she went into a nursing home. I found out that a couple of days later that I had COVID. So I couldn't go to see her. And then they had quarantined her. So that was the 23rd of December, 22nd. I'd say 23rd, COVID. So I was isolated for the holiday. I didn't get to see my family. I didn't get to see her. I didn't get to see anybody. And then she passed away on January 7th. So I never got to see her again. I never got to say goodbye or anything, to my auntie. And that's just some of the things that happened with COVID. So that was very heartbreaking for me. And I kind of felt a little guilty because I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. But I feel she knew that I loved her and that I was only trying to do what was best for her. So once I got over all that, and during COVID, the office was open, the office was closed. Some people were coming in, some people were working from home. So then in May, it was election time. So it was such a huge frenzy going on in the office. They were doing some things that they weren't supposed to do. And I was like, we're nonpartisan. You're not supposed to be in the office. There's things you can't do. So I said, I'm going to lunch. So on my way to go to lunch, I fall down the stairs. I break my femur in two places.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm laying there in excruciating pain. And these bones don't heal like they used to. I'm over I'm over 60. The bones don't heal. So while I was recuperating, that's what I was asking. You know, are you telling me that I need to slow down? Are you telling me that you've taken care of everybody else? You've taken care of your aunt, you've taken care of your kids, you've taken care of the borough. When are you going to take care of Debbie or Deborah? When are you going to take care of Deborah? So as I'm recuperating, off and on, still working, I'm on workman's comp, but every now and then they would still call me, to help on some things at the office. So as I'm laying there recuperating, I really started to think, I'm at this age where I could retire and find out what else I can do. So the other things that happened is that my two very best friends that we were thick as thieves, we were going to be the Golden Girls, we were going to enjoy life together. They are no longer with us. So I am only one third of the trio. So that was another thing that I was saying. Okay, life is short. Life is so short. What am I going? What do you want to do? What is it that you want to do? So I thought I wanted to renovate my home. So I started renovating my home. I tore down walls and everything like that. And I was sitting there one night and I had this lively discussion with my brother, which we call disagreements. We call them discussions because he's a carpenter and he was helping me with my house. And after one of our lively discussions, a small voice came to me and said, "Why are you doing this? The kids are all grown. They don't need you in this house. They have their own house. They have their own lives. What do you want to do?" I called my brother and I said, "I'm selling it." I said, "We're not going to come here. I'm selling the house as is, whatever anybody gives me, I'm going to take it." I said, "And then I'm going to move." And he said, "Well, where are you going to move to?" And I said, "Well, I don't know yet." So honestly, I didn't know where I was going to go. So I was looking at different places, South Carolina, Florida, and I'm like, no, Florida just had hurricanes. I'm not going to go there. South Carolina, it's kind of humid. I don't want to go there. California is kind of expensive, and one day it might be in the ocean, so I didn't want to go there. So I said, the Midwest has tornadoes. And I said, well, Arizona, it has the least amount of natural disasters. I said, I think I'll go to Arizona. And then I had two friends that lived here, and they'd been here for 5 years. And I said, what do you think? And I came down in November, and I looked around, and I said, I'm going to do it. So then February, I sold my house in January. I stayed with my brother for a little bit. I packed up 4 suitcases, got in my car on I think it was February 5th. Got in my car and I started my journey to Arizona. And I got here on the 10th. So it took me 5 days to drive to Arizona. It was a wonderful drive. I got to see God's beautiful, beautiful country, beautiful world that we have. And I got to really think about and appreciate, this new journey. I'm like, this is a new journey. This is a new start. I love everybody back in Pittsburgh. Love you from afar. But I wake up every day and I feel like I'm in paradise. I wake up every day to sunshine. And I know I'm not trying to paint this perfect picture because life is not always happy. Life does not always give you a bowl of cherries. But you know what? Right now, I am enjoying my cherries. And I get up every day. I see the bunny rabbits. I see the quails. I see the hummingbirds. And I'm absolutely loving the life that I'm living. Loving it.
I love that. What a story of like sheer will and courage, too. Because for you to just take 4 suitcases, like you left everything and just picked it up and moved because you felt so strongly that you needed something new. And if we would all do that when we feel that need, and we all hear that little voice that tells us it's time for something else, or we need to focus on something else, what would happen to our lives if we listened to that more often? You're a great example of that.
And Joyce Myers, she always says she had her book called "Do It Afraid." You know,
Uh huh.
are you afraid? Yeah, but what if you don't do it? Then you're then you're like the other, I can't think of her name now, that wrote a book about the mountain is you. Or no, it was Mel Robbins who said to stop shoulding all over ourselves. We should have did this, we should have did that, we should have did this. And again, when my two friends passed away, they didn't even collect their Social Security. They died before they could collect their Social Security. So it's like, should. I don't want to say, oh, I should have did this and I should have did this when I'm laying there and can't do what I want to do. So as long as I can still walk, as long as God gives me the grace to wake up the next day, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try something different. It may not always work out, but if you don't, if you don't do it, how are you going to know? How will you know?
Yeah. Speaking of which, there is a post I had posted earlier this week that said, replace your worried thoughts about what could go wrong with excitement for what could go right.
Yes.
And like, we're so worried all the time about what we're going to lose that we lose sight of what we can gain by trying something new.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's so important that we do that. You've got to try. If it doesn't work out, you can always come back to the situation you're in now.
That's exactly. And that's what I
I
said.
I always think that I'm like, it can't get in I can always come back to this. So what else can we do to get out there and to do the awesome thing? So
And that's what they said. Well, what if it doesn't work? And I said, but what if it does work?
what if it does? What if always has this negative air about it? It's like a negative vibe. What if? I'm like, what if we stop putting a question mark on the end of that and start putting an exclamation point at the end of it?
Exclamation point. Yes. Yes. What if? Look at the
Different way of thinking. Same
possibilities.
words, different
Look at
power.
possibilities of what if.
Yeah,
We'd still
gotta be replaced.
we'd still be in the dark.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to touch on what it is that you're doing now too, Deborah, because this podcast has a lot of entrepreneurs on it. It has a lot of hunger for information about financial stuff. A lot of us are home service or service based businesses where we can be badass at what it is that we do ourselves, but we don't have all the particulars of running a business and we just kind of keep slapping it together until it works. And I know financials is one that a lot of us struggle with. So during COVID-19, that hit small businesses hard. If you were in the trades industry, it was the best thing that ever happened to you because we were so damn busy, we couldn't keep up because so many people were at their house and they needed our services, or people were at home. They're like, I think I'll fix up my yard. I think I'll fix up my house. I think I'll do all these things because now they finally had time to work on their projects. So, with what you do now, working with tax rebate specialists, there is a program from the government, as I understand. I'm going to have you clarify this. This is an ERC, it's a tax credit. Talk to us. What is this? How do businesses find out about it? How can they work with you? How do they know if they qualify? Like, give us the overview.
Okay. First of all, I'm not good with taxes. I'm not a tax preparer or anything like that. So that's a disclaimer. I just want everybody to know that. But I am so thrilled and excited about this program because my heart is again for nonprofits and for small business. And they did suffer during COVID with the COVID crisis. So with this employee retention credit, it is a program for those individual businesses that had W-2 employees that worked to stay open during COVID. If you kept your employees, then there's a tax credit that you could be eligible for. And I say could be because there's different requirements for this. There's no minimum as to how many employees that you need to have, but there is a maximum. Our organization only does up to 500 employees, but we have no minimum. You must have W-2 employees. So unfortunately, we don't have anything for the solopreneur at this time, nor anybody who is an independent contractor. So there's no program for those individuals at this time. But what it identifies were the struggles that especially restaurants had to go through, especially small independent grocery stores had to go through. A lot of the restaurants had to shut down completely. So again, they had to be very creative on how they wanted to continue business. So they couldn't bring people into their facility, but they could still do takeout. And that's how a lot of these organizations survived. The restaurants, that's how they survived. Independent grocery stores, however, were at the mercy of their supplier. They couldn't get toilet paper in as much as they wanted to. Couldn't get toilet paper, couldn't get disinfectant. Hand sanitizer, who would think that hand sanitizer would ever disappear? But you couldn't find hand sanitizer anywhere. For the borough's office,
bleach anywhere.
Bleach, right. We couldn't even get the dispensers. They didn't have the dispensers even to send to us. It all was backlogged. So supply issue is a reason that an organization could apply for the credits. If you had a decrease in revenue, even though there were some organizations, like you said, your organization, some of the other construction or maintenance organization, that was the best time for them because people were at home and they needed things to be fixed. But still, there were items that they still couldn't get because things were backed up still in shipping containers because they weren't being released to be distributed. And the other was supply, revenue, closures or suspensions. I was talking to another gentleman who worked for an auto dealership. So instead of people working 6 days a week, they had one shift that worked three days a week, and then they had another shift that worked the other 3 days a week. So nobody worked 6 days, but they didn't get laid off, but they still work. So that was a reduction in the hours that their employees worked. That was a reduction in operations. So reduce revenue, suspension or closure of your business, and a supply issue. So those are the three reasons. You do not need to have all three to apply. What I do with tax rebate specialists is I am the marketing person. I go out, I talk to the businesses and ask them, we know you got PPP. If you got PPP, did you apply for ERC? Because in the beginning, if you got PPP, which is paycheck protection, I forget about these acronyms. If you got paycheck protection, you could not apply for ERC. This was in the very beginning, back in 2000. But in 2021, that was changed. Even if you got paycheck protection, you could still apply for the ERC. There just will be a little percentage of your credit that will be deducted from your monies because you received the paycheck protection. Okay. Now, what we do ask several questions. We ask, which of the qualifiers do you feel that you fall into? And then there's a little explanation box that you put into as to why you feel you qualify there. If it's a revenue question, then you need to identify what that revenue loss was, and you need to put in the proof for that. They're also going to ask for the 941s that you send in every year, every quarter to the IRS. They ask for that. And then they ask for detailed payroll report, because what they're looking for are the numbers, the gross numbers on your 941 and your gross number on your payroll report. They want them to match. So what we do at TRS, we have a staff of people that review these documents. And once they review all these documents and you answer the questions in the questionnaire, this information goes to our processors, which is employee retention credit specialists. They're out of Utah. They're the ones that do all the calculations. They have a staff of over 200 people. That is all they do is process ERC. They have all the state regulations of what were closures, what were their rules for all the 50 states. What also sets us apart from the other organizations is that we have an advisory board, the current state attorney general for Utah, and then two former state attorney generals. We have the trial attorney for the labor department on our advisory board. We have a gentleman, Clark Capital. He is said to be one of the richest individuals in Utah. That's on our advisory board. And I don't have it in front of me, but I forgot the other gentleman's name, who is also on our advisory board. Then we have also on our executive board, we have tax forensic experts, and we also have our legal attorneys on our executive committee. Also, when you apply for this credit, you are taken through all the steps that the IRS requires in order for them to process your ERC. Now, they've processed over 100,000, I should say. They've done over 100,000 ERCs, and 65,000 of them that were processed. And there were also 40,000, that were not processed because they didn't meet the qualifications. So just know that the information is being reviewed. Once that happens, and the best thing that I forgot to tell you is that there's no fee for the employer while we're working to find out what we can get them back. Once we find out what can get back to them, it's a 15% fee. That fee does not have to be paid until you get your checks from the IRS. Now, there's 6 quarters in January of 2020. There were the quarters 2, 3, and 4. In 2021, it is quarters 1, 2, and 3. If you are eligible for all 6 quarters, you get back 6 checks. And as you get these checks, you'll get an invoice. And as you get those checks, you pay for the invoices. So to me, I'm like, oh, this is a win-win all the way around. They don't have to pay for us while we look to calculate to see if they're eligible. And if they're not eligible, there's no fee. There's nothing at all. When they'll let you know you did not qualify for this reason or this reason or this reason. If you do qualify, they ask you, did you want to move forward? If you want to move forward, there's documentation that you have to sign. They give you all the information as to how they came up with the calculations and what you'll get back. Then once you sign off, then you have to wait for the IRS to give you your checks. That could take either 4 or 8 months. And the reason, and I'm going to put this out there because
it's the IRS.
One of the things is the IRS. The other thing is that there are what is called ERC mills. They are businesses that have popped up. They're making ridiculous promises. I can get you your ERC back in 90 days. You can't. And they're just not being ethical. They're just not being compliant. So what the IRS is doing is they're pausing until January, sending those checks out. But individuals will still get their checks that qualify. But what they want to do is they want to make sure that everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing and are staying compliant, because we want to make sure that these individuals, these businesses get their money. And I want to just say this.
Sure. Because that was a big problem with PPP, wasn't it? Like now, like my cousin actually works for the IRS in Ogden. And she was talking about how, like, I know this was really big at election time in Arizona, at least, that they had all these signs out that was like, they hired 80,000 new IRS agents. And like a vast majority of the people they had to bring on with that are literally auditing PPP loans because there were so many of them and they went out so fast and there was like nothing. Like I got PPP loans and the first round was a B to get.
Yes.
The second go around was like, here you go.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Wow.
It was crazy. It was so fast. And I remember talking to somebody that works in my business and I was like, this is not going to turn out well. Like, if that is so easy to file for that, like, people can fudge up numbers all the time. Like, there's no way that they're matching all this stuff up already.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely checks and balances with the ERC. Definitely checks and balances.
Well, that's good. That's a good thing. You know what? It's one of those things where it's like, I'm kind of looking at it this way. Like it's a reward for keeping people on and working really hard, you know? It's a tax credit, which we'll take those. Any damn thing they'll give us, we'll take it. So it's one of those things where great. If you qualify for this, fantastic. If you don't, then you didn't meet the requirements and the program wasn't for you anyways. But everybody that got that stuff, if you were working during that time, you had employees, apply for this. Let's definitely look into this.
And that's what I'm saying too. What I'm saying is you don't know again. It's just like life. If you don't at least check it out, then you won't know. If you don't check it out, you won't know. You know, so it's like and here's the other thing. If you get a call from individuals and they asked you, do you have 5 or more employees? Because this one gentleman said this happened to him. And he said, no, click.
Oh, yeah, because then they don't think they're not getting their money out of it. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm in it for the business owner. Yes, I want to feed my family as well. But why should I penalize a business that only had 4 employees? Why should I do that? That's not fair. And there are so many small businesses out there that's all they have is 4 employees or 2 employees, but they deserve to get their money back just as those larger organizations do.
Absolutely. And you know what? Sometimes we trip over dollars to pick up 10, and it's a lot easier to get a dollar from 10 people than $10 from one. So really think about that sometimes too. I think about that a lot with like grant writing. I was just having a conversation with somebody about that too, and scholarships. I've been working with my daughter with some stuff with that too. And I'm like, there's so many scholarships and grants that go without anyone ever applying for them because they're only $500 to $1,000. Shit, I'll take $500 to $1,000 for free all day long. You know, they think, it's not worth my time to do this. So everybody applies for the $10,000 one, and it's rare that you're going to get one of those. But you have much greater odds of getting $10,000 ones than you do from the other ones. And most of the time, it's pretty much the same application process. Well, I think this is incredible information that a lot of business people can definitely benefit from. So, Deborah, I will put all of your links in the show notes. We will definitely put everything in there. We'll promote this like crazy through Ladies Kicking Ass too for you, because I also have that passion for helping small businesses be able to get as much as they possibly can to help things. I know it's been a tough time, even just keeping people or getting people to come to work since COVID, especially in the trades. I have had this issue myself with my septic company. So this is the first time since COVID. Honestly, today is the first time since COVID I have had fully staffed what I needed to have. First time, first day. So this is a big thing for us too, to be able to, and labor is so much more expensive now. And people don't want to pay this cost, but people expect to be paid 25 to 30 bucks an hour. Well, that has to come out of somewhere. So your plumber's going to be more expensive. Your septic pumping's going to be more expensive. Your pest control guy is going to start getting more expensive because the cost of living is expensive. And so that's just something that we've got to kind of roll this tide of what is going on with things. It's not going to go back down. It might, inflation might come down a little bit, but people aren't just going to be like, okay, we're going to cut your wage by $5. This is a new standard of living, and we've got to be able to properly take care of our people so that we still have a business.
And we got to adjust. And that's what we got to adjust. The only thing I ask is that you sit and have the conversation and be open minded to this and to think, I don't want another thing that I tell employers, okay, I'm giving you this information. You also have to believe that you qualify. I don't want you to think that I'm trying to force this down your throat because I'm not. If you say no, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to leave the information. Think about it. And may I circle back around as you think about it, answer your questions. But think about it. At least give it a chance.
Yeah,
Give it a chance.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been an incredible conversation, just like I knew it would. But at the end of every podcast, Deborah, I always ask everyone, because it is truly the inspiration for a book that I am writing called Ladies Kicking Ass. So I want to know from you, Deborah, in all your life's journeys and where you're at now, what does the phrase ladies kicking ass mean to you?
Several things. Taking it from Joyce Meyer's, do it afraid. Everything in life is not going to be easy, but you don't want to live or take before you take your last breath saying, I should have. Ladies kicking ass is like, I did it. I did it. I took the chance. I took the leap. And look at the example that I am giving to other women who are still hesitant. Don't be hesitant. Just Nike. Just do it. Just do it. Be like Tanya. Be like Tanya.
Oh,
Get out there and be fearless, or appear to be fearless,
just do the damn thing.
Do it anyway.
Yes, you know what? And I think that I think sometimes too we hear so much, especially as women, if you're really in this personal development thing, they're like, you've got to be fearless. I'm like,
Yeah, I know.
fearlessness. Oh shit, scared to death.
But here's the thing.
Because it isn't going away. It isn't going away.
Yes.
But the choice to have courage to do it anyways is where the grit comes from.
Yes. And then the other thing is there are women like you where you can say, I'm reaching out my hand to you. If you need a hand to hold to come across the street or come across what you're afraid of, we're here. We're here. We're the example. We'll hold your hand. We'll bring you through it. Loving it. Loving it. Loving it.
Yes. I love it so much. Thank you so much for being here, Deborah. This is going to be incredible, and I know you're going to help a lot of women today. So thank you so much. And I'm so looking forward to listening to your new podcast on your new journey. So I'm just going to speak it out there. Deborah's working on a podcast, and she's going to talk to women that are in their 60s and above and talk about how their life is going. And we've been throwing around names, and I'm going to hold her accountable to getting this started. So stay tuned for that. We'll be sure to promote that when it comes out too. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for being part of the Ladies Kickin' Ass community. Cheers to all you badass women out there. Keep rocking your power, igniting your fire, and making waves in the service industry. If you loved today's episode, please do me a quick favor. Take a screenshot, post it, and tag us at Ladies Kickin' Ass. Be sure to include the link to your favorite episode. Your support in spreading the word means the world to us as we aim to empower even more women. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more kick-ass episodes. And don't forget, a 5-star review is the ultimate high five. Connect with us on social media. All the links are in the show notes. Thank you for being part of our tribe. Now go kick some serious ass, lady. Hey there, ladies. Want to supercharge your personal growth journey with insights from the best in the business? I've got a treat for you. I have been raving throughout many of these podcasts about this incredible self development app called Growth Day. Imagine learning from industry powerhouses like Mel Robbins, Ed Milet, my girl Lori Harder, Brendan Burchard, Mel Abraham, Lisa Bilyeu. Oh my gosh, there's so many more. And guess what? Every Wednesday, they teach live that you can watch them and interact with them through this app. It's so incredibly cool. Beyond their wisdom and live coaching sessions, there is another incredible feature that I'm obsessed with, though: the journal section. I use it every single day, whether it's either to brain dump, reflect on my feelings, remember things for my business, or dive deep with their brilliant journal prompts. I'm never at a loss for words when I sit down to journal. How freaking amazing is that? And because you're part of our podcast family, there's a special treat awaiting you. Click the link in the show notes below to check it all out. Embark on an incredible journey with Growth Day. Remember, every new day is an opportunity to grow, reflect, and evolve. And that is what we do as ladies who are kicking ass.